Great. So welcome, everybody. We are ready to broadcast and share ideas on the peak performance mindset. And why don't we go around the table, introduce ourselves? Jim, you're first.
I'm a professional speaker and author. Been doing this for 41 years all around the world. Best known for two of my 18 books, Relationship Selling and The Acorn Principle.
Bob, you were a former police officer from LA.
Yes, with the LAPD, and prior to that, I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps with First Force Recon as a big part of that. And then later on, from teaching martial arts to running businesses and everything, what I do, the basis of my life has been through the martial arts. I've been doing that since I was 18 months old.
At our last training course, you did some burpees. It was so impressive. How many of those do you do a day?
Just as much as I can. I'll even after this, I'll get up and just maybe do like 30 to 50 burpees. And a lot of times I'll do what's called plyometric burpees, where my whole body will come off the ground in terms of doing the clapping, or just throw my arms out like that and then getting up and just going for it, because I like to challenge myself physically. And again, I think in peak performance, in part of the whole training is to make sure that your body is in order as well.
You got me inspired on the push-ups. I'm now doing 100 a day, and I haven't missed a day since October 23rd of last year.
And now I'm going to do my impression of Mark Hunter. Hi, my name is Mark Hunter. And
hey. What more can I say right there? You know, Gerhard, I have trained you well. What can I say? So, hey, you know what? I'm Mark Hunter, the sales hunter. And, you know, I feel bad. I didn't do 100. I didn't even run this. I ran last night. So I'm going to run this evening. So, but
good.
Anyway, I must be the slacker.
I mean, there were so many things going on that I had to overcome, and how I had to look at myself. And I had to say, okay, and this happened a lot in my adulthood, yet I think it was the small steps in terms of developing myself. Martial arts, yes, helped. Sports helped. It was being able to have that mindset shift on myself. And I say, okay, Bob, that stuff happened to you in the past, and it's a story. And that story, while it's an important part of developing yourself, how can you look at that in terms, and this is where self-awareness comes in, how can you look at yourself and become the better part? Because everybody is not perfect. So that was one of the awareness things that I looked at. Not me, not you, not anybody in the audience. Yet we're perfect in our own being. So I looked at myself as being perfectly me. I'm being the best part of me. So because of that, I can express myself in public, whether it's speaking or anything else, because I'm being the best part of me. And whether I get up on stage, and even if I stutter a little bit, it really doesn't matter, because the audience doesn't care. And I was able to see that. And from that, I just didn't really care about how the perception of me. What I did care was, now, instead of focusing on me, I'm focusing on the audience and right. What I can do.
And that's an interesting shift from the imprinted mindset was I'm Frankenstein, and I have limited capabilities, to that where you made that mindset shift, where you empowered yourself and say, I'm challenging my self-limiting beliefs, I'm empowering myself, and you rewrote the script and you became who you really were.
Yes, exactly.
Jim, I want you to indulge me. Can you pick up the guitar in the back? I want you to sing the beginning of a song called Everybody's Talking, a Nilsson song.
Harry Nilsson. Nobody's talking at me. Can't hear a word they're saying. Only the echoes of my mind.
Everybody's talking. I can't hear the words that they're saying. Only the echoes of my mind.
Yeah.
And that is a mindset statement, and that relates to Bob and his communication with himself. And Steven Spielberg gave a speech at Harvard University in 2016 where he said, there are two things in your mind, two voices. Your conscience tells you what you should do, and your intuition tells you what you could do. And we all could do more. And let's talk, let's give the microphone to Mario. Mario has the big mic and he has a lot of big ideas. So share with us how you listen to the voice in your mind and decided to start your own business and make that transformation.
I went out on my own, as everybody knows, back in January or February of 2016. And I created an only social selling training and personal branding company, and competed with some of the most reputable players out there in the marketplace, and did really, really, really well, succeeded really well. And then I came up with this idea of, you know what? I never did this to make just this much money. I did this to be able to have this much money and to offer something back to the community that I wasn't able to do in a corporate environment. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to go big or go home. I'm going to scale this thing, and I'm going to scale it to the nth degree. And as you know, Gerhard and everybody else here on the call, we launched something that was not a training company. It's a digital sales transformation company that was done back 7 weeks ago. And it literally was the largest thing that could have hit the digital sales transformation service industry. And it totally took everybody off guard. But the cool part about it was, every way that I looked, everybody said to me, "Oh, you can't do it. It's too big. You're scaling it too large. You're gonna fail. Start small, then inch up." And every time someone said no, every time someone said you can't, every time someone said you're biting off more than you can chew, it fueled the fire to say, "Watch me."
Who is your hero in business?
It's an interesting question. It's actually not my hero in business. It's actually my inspiration in both business as well as family life. And it's actually going to be my dad. And I think a lot of people will say my dad or my mom, but this was actually unique. Like my dad, his background, he came from a totally dysfunctional, abusive environment. We're talking about father holding guns to mom's head, beating him with the steel-toed boots and make him kneel on rice with plates on his hands. And if he moved, he would get kicked. Right? I mean, it was like totally horrible situation. And move that into where, as I was growing up, the one thing he didn't know was what it was like to hear his father say, "I love you." And so he just instilled in us the desire and the passion to always be the best.
Bob, I stuttered as a kid too, to the point that I would not even attend the first day of classes in college, because that was the one day that they might take roll and I might stutter. And it was not a pretty situation. And it was very interesting, but I knew you had to overcome that. And I think people who run into me today who knew me in school go, "Wait a minute, you speak all over the world? You got to be kidding me. This is a kid who never would say anything." What's interesting is the therapy I had to go through was really by two really divine situations. One was becoming a disc jockey, because I could be a disc jockey. You're listening to the Mindy 95 KQZ radio. And for some reason, I didn't stutter. I mean, that was part of my therapy. The second part was really my relationship with the Seattle Police Department. The Seattle Police Department bestowed on me, and I know you were a police officer, Bob. Unfortunately, I saw it from the other end. Speeding tickets, traffic tickets that it didn't prohibit me, but I just couldn't afford car insurance, which meant I had to get a job in sales. Wait a minute, a guy who doesn't like to talk now having to get a job in sales because salespeople got company cars. I had to find a sales job that supplied me with a company car. And, it's interesting, but those two things started that long transformation. And talk about role models, Mario shared about his father. I mean, it was interesting. My father was a minister, and you'd hear him speak every Sunday. And he could speak and do it very well. And I thought he was a phenomenal speaker. And it's like, I can do that. So you kind of put all those visions together, all those things, and eventually it kind of moves to where I am today. But there was one very interesting situation. Mira, you talked about the difficult situation through a strange set of circumstances. At 19 years of age, I was managing the second highest volume McDonald's in the world, Fairbanks, Alaska. Okay, this was during the pipeline, when the pipeline was being built. And I was 19 years of age, the manager of the second highest volume McDonald's in the world. And let me tell you something. When you're 19 and, you've worked for McDonald's for 3 years since you were 16, but you clearly don't know everything about leadership and managing. Let me tell you something. That crisis situation, I mean, being in a remote area like Fairbanks, here I was the manager. Again, strange set of circumstances, how I wound up there. But it took me to a different level of realize that, wait a minute, I can do this. Because there's nobody here that's going to help you. I mean, if this place doesn't open up in the morning, it's your fault. If this place doesn't close at night, it's your fault. It's your fault. And that insistence of saying, I got to figure out a way to win, I think that's carried me all the way through my corporate America life, and then for the last 18, 19 years of doing this.
I think that there's something to be said about the inner magic that's operating in every one of us, that we grew up with parents telling us, here's how the world works. And then as we get exposed to teachers and mentors and successful people, we realize there's not just one way to look at the world, there are many different ways. And then all of a sudden the inner voice emerges and tells you, you're actually a different person from your parents, you're a different person from everybody else. And how do I assert my individuality and dare I do what I want to do? So, Jim, can you speak to that, how you developed yourself and transformed from a government clerk to an independent, successful business person?
I had a mindset shift to get myself out of a life-threatening situation. I was, at age 22, a bill collector who repossessed log trucks in the Ozark Mountains. I was not intimidating. I was overweight, out of shape, just looked like a normal 22-year-old guy. And so I didn't scare anybody when I went out to collect their bills. But I went out in the woods one day trying to find this truck I'd not received payments on. Found it, and it was down some deserted logging road. And I told the guy, I'm here to get the truck. And he said, well, it's not going to happen. And I said, well, I'll leave. I'm not going to fight you for it. I'll leave. But you do need to understand the next guy that comes is going to be armed, and he'll bring the sheriff with him. So after me, it gets ugly. I'm the last nice guy you're going to see. And the guy said to me, well, what if I turn the keys over to you, what happens then? I said, well, first off, if you turn the keys over to me, I don't know how to drive the truck, so I got to go find somebody to drive it. He said, well, that's what I'm going to do, and it's no longer my problem, so you're stuck. And I said, no, it's still your problem. He said, how's that? I said, you live here, Mountain View, Arkansas, small town. Yeah. I said, you've lived here a long time. You know most everybody, and they know you. Yeah. I said, if I go get somebody to drive the truck and I take the truck back and you go home independent of that, then every time you see the dealer in town, which will be basically once a week at least, you're going to avert your eyes and walk on the other side of the street because you'll feel ashamed. And he'll feel resentful toward you. And so there'll be an anger present between the two of you every time you see each other. Or you can hop in the truck, drive it back to the dealer, and I'll follow you. You walk in, hand him the keys and say, I'm sorry, I can't do this right now. I'll find a way to make it right. And then I'll give you a ride home. And every day thereafter, when you end up going into town, if you see the dealer, you'll be able to greet each other with dignity and you'll feel fine. So you get to make the call how you want to handle this. He said, well, okay, I'll drive. So he drove it. He turned in the keys. He got in my car. I took him home. And on the way home, he said, hey, if you ever need anybody to drive a truck, come by and pick me up. I'm not doing anything. He went from my adversary who was about to kick my butt to my volunteer employee. Unbelievable. And all it was a mindset shift, you know, from seeing me as an adversary to seeing me as a partner in problem solving who would help him get past a very difficult situation and retain his dignity in the process.
I want to bring somebody in who is a member of the audience. Let me reach out to Chris Salem. Chris, you were listening to our conversation, and instead of asking a question, I thought this would be a great moment for you to join us. Tell us about your book.
Well, as we briefly discussed today on the radio show, Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve the Root Cause, Create Prosperity. You know, it's a book about showing how what I went through with my own experience and showing other people how they can operate in the solution rather than the effect of the cause of the problem. And up until I was age 30, I had operated in the effect of the cause of the problem, my root cause being my father. And I heard, Mario talk about his dad and how he was raised, and Jim was talking about certain things. And, I had a father that was, emotionally and verbally abusive. And oftentimes it came in silence, that he just wasn't there. Even if he was there, you didn't hear him. Yeah. And he'd be gone for days at a time, overseas, traveling. But I never once, until towards the end of his life, ever heard him say, I love you. So I grew up not having that. And as a result of that, I didn't realize the effect that it had on me until I reached my teen years, right up until my 20s, that I acted out in anger. And I chose situations that I created that would reinforce that emotion of anger, which many people are unconscious to. And if it's very subtle, where you don't even realize it's a major problem, there's still something that's holding you back. And it's better to operate within the solution rather than the effect. And that's what I show people how to do.
Did you have any physical manifestations of that anger?
I was an addict, so I had addiction problems to a variety of different things: drugs, alcohol, sex, food, you name it. There was no specific drug of choice, so to speak, but the real addiction was anger. It was the emotion of anger. And whatever I did, I would create situations. At that time, I thought I was the victim, but I would create situations that would reinforce that anger over and over again, picking business associates, bosses, customers, girlfriends that would end up experiencing certain situations that would allow me to relive that anger over and over and over again.
A book, because you know the process of rewriting your script and the story of your life, and by rewriting it, you edit it, you regain sanity, and you're able to create a perspective on life, a mindset that is helping you win.
Absolutely. We, like I said, all of us, the problem and the solution resides in all of us. Our responsibility to become aware, accept, and then find the root cause to your challenge or mindset barrier, and then truly resolve it, truly release it by forgiveness.
Let's shift towards mindfulness.
I take my breakfast time almost as sacred. My morning time, I like to have breakfast alone and just sit there with a notepad and follow the path that my mind wants to explore that day. And that's when the dreams become more vivid. When I'm writing out a goal, I'd start thinking about the implications of it, and then other things come in. Giving your mind freedom to float beyond yourself over to, like Bob was talking about, the way he encounters an audience, is he doesn't focus on him, he focuses on them. Same thing for me. I don't focus on me achieving a goal, I focus on the goal being achieved. So I look at the reality that's there instead of the one that's back over here. And I flesh that one out so much that I'm already there mentally. So that's my form of projection of myself into the next mode. And the number one question that I get from people when they find out I'm a speaker is, what do you do when you're feeling really nervous about your speech? And my answer is, I answer this question: why would they care to know what I'm about to tell them? And all I think about is the applications that they would be able to get from the use of the ideas that I'm there to bring. Not about me, not about them. It's about the application of the ideas.
I find that I'm in my best thinking when I'm spending 6 to 8 hours a week on planes, because there's just something magical when I'm on a flight. I'm disconnecting. I'm digging deeper into reading, digging deeper into really thinking through what my thoughts are, whether it be on my iPad, my computer, whatever. People say, well, gee, you got 2-3 hour layover between planes. Yeah, but you know what? I'm holed up in the club and I'm able to immerse myself. And I tell you what, for me, at 36,000 feet, that's where I do my best thinking. That's where really my mindset really becomes clear.
Despite being an advocate for digital everything, you could see here in my book, I personally use a system that helps me. Like every time I have a thought that I need to do, I just take a page and I write to-dos, and I just keep that page, and I keep that page going until I fill up the page. And then no matter where I'm at, I'll always go back to it. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that says to do right at the top. And that helps me fill that process, the mindset to figure out what I need to do, when I need to do it, and how I need to do it. And some of them are hot priorities and some of them are not. But I'm a good old fashioned write it down. And a lot of folks I know, they use the whole Siri function. They're like, Siri, remind me to do, but it just doesn't work. So writing things down has definitely helped me to develop into a better leader and executor as well.
I also want to talk about gratitude, which is also a mindset function.
Most religions are based in gratitude. Certainly Christianity is. You know, thanking is what prayer is about. And it says, whatsoever you ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. So the appropriate way for a person to pray in that context would be to thank the Creator for what it is they desire, as if it were already on its way toward them. You know, when I look at, we were talking earlier about heroes. One of my role model heroes was Og Mandino, the author of The Greatest Salesman in the World, and I had a chance to become good friends with Og. And the thing about Og was he was a grateful person in all that he did. He was constantly looking for good things to point out. And I try to practice that in my own life. And it's amazing what you draw to yourself when you use emotional magnetism, which is gratitude.
Bob?
Every day, every morning. So I'll do my workout. Then I will take out my journal and I start thinking about my life and my work day. And I give thanks for both my life and my work day and my health. And even more important are the people that are around me, from my family to my friends, to even the challenges that I have faced in my life. Because without those challenges, without the pain that I went through early on, I would not be the person who I am now.
I'm going to quote Luke 6:38. Practice giving and people will give to you. You know, in business, though, as you scale an organization and as you get deeper into deeper levels as leaders, you've got to remember to stop and say, first, thank you so much for doing this. And even if it was a horrible job, you've got to find that opportunity where you can say, thanks. I think I really like this about whatever it is that may be like the good thing, one good thing. And here are some of the things that I would critique, or some of the things that I would change. And so that would be my, like, you know, when you think about gratitude, a practical thing about leadership, oftentimes when I'm providing feedback, especially internally in the new organization, I'll write it. And then I'll save it and go do something else and come back to it. My best practice is write whatever you need to write, be direct. It's perfectly fine. Let people know where you stand. Before you hit send, take a break, come back to it, and figure out how you can fine tune and tweak that message to be able to show gratitude.
Mark.
You think about who are the people who really influenced you positively. Who were the ones? They were the givers. There's two people in my life, two managers that I worked for that were incredible givers. And you stop and you think about that. That's really how I think we move ourselves to the next level. One of the things that I try to do every day is say, who am I going to be able to influence and impact? Not from an arrogant standpoint, but from a giving standpoint. Because just as I want to influence and impact people positively, I want to be influenced and impacted positively by others. And it changes our mindset. And I think that's what moves us to the next level when we say, I'm going to be a giver. Jim, you remember this person. Remember Tremendous Jones. Remember Charlie Tremendous Jones? He was an incredibly, I mean, he was so grateful as he's blind and can barely walk. And he is so grateful for each day.
I was privileged to be at his bedside a few days before he passed away. And he spent the whole time thanking me and the others who were in the room. God bless him.
Yeah.
Then he said, as I shook his hand, and he couldn't see me, but he shook my hand and he said, I'll see you in the morning. Meaning the spiritual morning, but it said it with such conviction, I thought he was going to be at coffee the next day.
I want to read a quick letter. It's very, very short. And I want you to guess who wrote it. Many thanks for the disposable cameras that you kindly sent me for my son, Eric. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. I know he does too. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to reading your piece on me. With my best wishes, sincerely,
Donald Trump. How about that?
That's amazing.
So, if somebody, that was his book, if somebody like him can write a thank you letter and express gratitude, why don't we all do it more?
Well, hey, this has been a wonderful hour of influence and impact, and I know each of you have influenced me and impacted me. Gerhard, thank you, because you're the one who really brings us all together. It's the greatest privilege of all, knowing that each day we learn something, each day we get to share something, and each day we grow. That's what we do. It's gone from a phone call between two guys, Gerhard and myself, to a video chat with friends. We love it that way.